Today, Liss and I are going to explore our perspectives regarding hope.
Hi, and welcome to Light for Life. If you are returning to our channel, thank you. We value and appreciate you. Our aim is to shine a bright light on your inner splendor and assist to connect you to your magnificence via what we intend to be enlightened sharing, potentially educational, and hopefully entertaining information, as well as encouragement for new perspectives. If you are new here, you are most welcome. We do hope that you will find our content highly beneficial and enjoyable. I am Liss. I'm a science of mind practitioner and a teacher of various healing modalities applicable to all aspects of the self and this life.
And I am Lori. I am a holistic wellness researcher and educator. Welcome to Connections with Liss and Lori. We use the space to offer our perspective regarding multiple different topics that we certainly hope you find inspiring. Hope is a very interesting word, in my opinion. It's a term that I don't know if people really understand how cliche hope can be, how overused the word hope can be, and how misunderstood the word hope can be. I completely understand that generally it is seen as a very positive, favorable, joyous kind of word, but I see a different side to hope. I think hope is elusive and it's a little disempowering. And I know that might throw some people off, but that's how I feel. Now, I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm not going to say that hope should be completely ignored and hope goes out the window. I think hope is really the first step towards something or the first step away from something like despair or really challenging situations that we might not be able to see our way out of. If we get a glimpse of hope, that is absolutely a spark or a first step in a shift in perspective or in a shift in trajectory, a shift toward change. But it is, in my opinion, it is merely the first step. It is not the arrival point. And I think when we discuss hope or when we explore what hope really is, I think we also have to at least consider the word belief, because in my opinion, they are intermingled a bit. They are somewhat hand in hand. If you truly believe there is, let's use the word hope. If you truly believe there's no hope, there isn't. If you truly believe there is, there is. So if we unravel hope a little bit, I think we arrive at belief. And our belief, our core belief drives that hope, drives that change, drives that spark, and drives the destination that we are trying to reach. Before I start going off on a tangent here, I feel like I should stop and get your perspective and include you in on this conversation, because I have a lot of thoughts about this one.
Thank you, Laurie. You know, with my memory, if you make more than 5 points, then I'm going to lose the other 5 in terms of whether I had a response to them or not. So yes, hope is a truly beautiful thing. Like with most things in life, when it's in its positive expression. I also agree with you that there is a very negative expression of hope. But before I get to that, I must agree with you that yes, in a sense, it is that first step on a journey out of a certain place of being. And in terms of a state, frequentially speaking, it does fall in the category of the neutral ones. Generally speaking, we need to have first arrived at a space of acceptance before we can actually connect to that initial spark of hope. So as long as we are in resistance to what is, and these days it's become an annoying saying to a lot of people, it is what it is. And yet, when something has already manifested or is in place, then it is what it is. And the sooner we can get to a state of acceptance about that, then perhaps we can start connecting to that next level, which is the glimmer of hope, in which we start believing that perhaps it is possible that we can change what has already come into manifestation, what already is. How can we change it? How can we begin to change it? So I think it is the state of acceptance that leads us to connect to the realm of possibility, which is what hope is the state of. So even if we can only connect to that one initial little spark of perhaps there's hope, that is the whole realm of possibility opening up to our perceptual field. And that is a magical moment. And what I think is one of hope's most beautiful and most positive qualities is that it does return in the morning, like the sun does. Hope floats. Hope bounces. It always comes back. It always rises. Sometimes we can feel profoundly hopeless, which is an awful state of being. And we can feel that way for a very long time. But hope will always return. And then when it does, when we connect to that little spark of hope, if we can allow ourselves to believe in it and to actually start exercising our belief in that initial little spark, that's when it expands. That's when it grows. And then there's so much hope, so much hope that we never saw before. And so before we move on to its next aspects, potentially, if I can just encourage people that if you are dealing with or facing a situation that does feel profoundly hopeless, please know somewhere in your heart of hearts that it never is. It may feel that way, but it never, ever is. There is always potential and there's always possibility, fields of it, oceans of it, and anything can change. Try to be in a state of acceptance that allows you to reach for hope, because it never is hopeless, no matter how much it may feel that way.
A dear friend of mine says, everything is okay. And if everything isn't okay, it's not the end. In the end, everything will be okay. And I think that applies really well to the seed of faith that isn't fully realized. If we are in a state of despair and if we are feeling hopeless, it's simply not the end, it's the beginning. And it can be daunting, but it is still the beginning. It is still a spark. And there is still possibility for positive change. It's just I get concerned that we consistently dangle the carrot before us. And I look forward to in our next recording, I look forward to discussing acceptance a lot more, because we don't want to constantly have that carrot dangling before us. And in a kind of a messy pursuant of this elusive thing that we can't ever really arrive at, we keep ourselves in a perpetual state of hope. That's not healthy either. We just, in my opinion, we just have to see hope as that seed of change. And like you said, continue to nourish that spark, feed it well, take steps to ensure that it grows into a really healthy, positive, fruitful endeavor, and not get stuck in that falling into despair and pulling yourself out and falling into despair and pulling yourself out and never really progressing beyond that. And I think that's where acceptance really ties in, and I look forward to talking about that. But staying on the hope topic here, how do you feel hope and faith are intermingled? I'm a little unclear on how I feel about that. Is it the same?
Mm.
Is it different? Are they intertwined? I'm not so sure how I feel about hope and faith. I see them differently. I see hope as a wish and faith as a knowing.
I wouldn't describe it exactly that way, but I understand what you're saying. Um, to me, there is no hope if you cannot trust in that initial hope that you think you're connecting to.
Right.
So for me, the word faith in our lexicon is rather polluted. So I prefer the word trust,
Yeah.
because faith tends to link in with institutionalized and external forms
True.
of belief and religion, which I
True.
don't resonate with. But faith and trust can be used interchangeably. So for me, we have to be exercising a certain level of trust in the hope that we're connecting to in order to think and believe that what we're hoping for can be possible. And we need to trust and believe in that for quite a while, usually, until we can convince ourselves that we are carrying a certainty. And it is the certainty in the knowing that will empower the hope to actually become effective and work for us. Otherwise, we're in that loop that you were describing, which is false hope, which is hope in its negative use. Basically, when we just don't know when to give up. And so we're harming ourselves. We just keep on trying and trying again and hanging in there in the false hope that this thing can change. Not because we do believe that it can, but because we want to believe that it can. And those are two very different states of being. One of my very favorite quotes about hope, and I literally have it stuck here on my little mini disc. I will read it to you. Hope is not just a desire for some future good, but rather confident expectation in what can come to pass. And for me, that is the shield against false hope.
Yeah.
You cannot have confident expectation in something that you're holding a false hope for.
Absolutely. I love that. That is really empowering.
It is. It is. And I've got it stuck up in my office for a reason. Because any time, which doesn't happen often, I must confess, but anytime I find myself sliding backwards to a place in which I could potentially be despairing about something, I come back to that. Why is there always hope? And in what situation can there be hope? And what do I exercise my confidence, my certainty, and my trust in? And so, sometimes we have to get brutally honest with ourselves,
Yes.
whether that's about a relationship or a situation or even a pattern that we perpetuate. We have to get brutally honest with ourselves about when it's time to give up.
Yeah.
When is it time to quit? We have been societally conditioned to believe that that is always a bad thing. No, it's not. Sometimes it's the highest form of self-love.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's the most empowering thing that we can do, is to finally come to a place of acceptance in which we give up. We shouldn't do that too easily, right?
Right.
But
Right.
we have to give ourselves permission to do it when it's called for, so
I
that we
actually
don't
just
chase
had
those
this.
carrots that we never catch.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually just had this conversation a couple days ago with a friend who felt a smidge of failure in something that she let go of. And she did use the phrase giving up and quitting. And I would encourage people to maybe shift their perspective. Are you really giving up? Are you really quitting? Or are you letting go of something that just isn't in alignment? It doesn't have to be failure when we quit and when we give up. It's really just a releasing of something that isn't working well. We sometimes we put so much effort and energy, which we should, we should have conviction and confident belief and put energy toward the things that we want. But if we're doing that on a long-term basis and something isn't working, it's time to shift, it's time to pivot, it's time to let go and start something new, and that's okay. It is not a failure, it's not quitting. We're just letting go of whatever it was that wasn't quite working, finding a different way to reach the same outcome.
It's freedom.
Hmm. Absolutely.
So I think very often I think about this in relation to people who find themselves in abusive situations and how easily they can be made to believe that this time is different, that it's changed, it won't happen again until it does. And then that cycle repeats and that cycle repeats. And that is hope in its most toxic form. And I think as humans who love and who want to know that we've given our all, it's really, really easy for our hearts to allow in that state of false hope. So I think it's something we need to exercise our discernment about way more powerfully than we do for our own benefit and our own protection and ultimately our own freedom from pursuits that are never going to lead to anything good or beneficial. It's an act of self-love to know when to give up hope and what to put hope in instead.
Absolutely. Discernment and discretion are vital in all in all of our days, in all of our decisions, and in all of our efforts. I agree.
Yeah. So there is always hope, but the question is, what are we going to put that hope in? Let's not be delusional about where we invest that beautiful energy, because that little spark of hope is just lovely, isn't it? It has the ability to raise us, to rise us, to reinvigorate us, to strengthen us even. So let's not be putting it into things and trying so hard to believe in them. Instead of recognizing, perhaps in the cold light of day, you know what? This is not worth that investment. And then releasing it, like you say, setting ourselves free from that toxic efforting to try and force a thing, right? Because that's never in the universal flow that hope in its most positive use can actually arrive us at. Because if we do climb the frequency scale from acceptance to belief to hope, what can meet us next is infinite possibilities, all potential. And when we can connect to that, then we can go even higher and start accessing states like joy and fulfillment and peace and bliss and glory. So let's not stay on that level of hope, constantly putting all our attention and all of our energy into it when there's so much higher and so much more potentially available to us.
Thank you for connecting with Light for Life. If you appreciate reminders, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you can receive those notifications. If you would like to work with one of us, you can find our contact information in the About section of this channel.
Yes, thank you for connecting with Light for Life. Please share your insights, your questions, and your comments with us in the comment section below. We value your feedback. And we really hope that we will see you for our next episode. We upload one every Thursday. Until then, bye-bye and be joyful.
Until we connect again, we send you love and light.